It's time for the big season finale. And it turns out to be much like Russell T Davies' previous season finales, bringing back elements from throughout the season and building up an apocalyptic threat that kills billions of people before the Doctor puts everything back to normal, just in time for an emotional farewell with his current companion. There's nothing particularly original going on, and as ever, the emotional beats work much better than the action scenes. It's certainly not one of the high points of the season, but it does its job. The episode gets off to a good start, with Sutek's slaves turning everyone to dust, while the Doctor and Mel escape on a Vespa. It's a good bit of action with decent effects, even if it is basically the end of Avengers Infinity War. Once important characters start to get killed off, you know it's all just going to get reversed in the end, so they may as well just kill off every single person in the entire universe for good measure. And they do. All that's left is the Dr. Ruby and Mel in the memory TARDIS from Tales of the TARDIS, which was apparently created just for this episode. And you can see how the special version of Pyramids of Mars would fit right into this episode. No doubt somebody will edit them all seamlessly together at some point, though you would have to believe that Mel is just out of shot throughout, falling asleep in a chair. I did watch that episode of Tales. It did a good job of cutting Pyramids of Mars down to its bare essentials, and all the new effects felt natural and non-intrusive, so I can certainly see it working as a way of getting new viewers interested in watching the classic series. The bulk of the episode takes place in a dead universe ruled over by Sutek. It's quite hard to establish the scope of billions of planets being wiped clean of life. Even movies with a massive budget like The Force Awakens struggle to make scenes of planets blowing up feel like they mattered. So arguably Doctor Who shouldn't even try. All we get to represent the dead universe is one scene with Sian Clifford in a tent. To be fair, it is an excellent scene, one of the highlights of the episode. At first you assume that the woman must be important to the plot. Maybe she's Susan, or possibly Ruby's mother. But it turns out she's just an ordinary woman representing all the lives that Sutek has ended. Sian Clifford and Ncuti Gatwa are both excellent in the scene, so I wouldn't mind if they brought her back for a bigger role later on. The final confrontation with Sutek is inevitably an anticlimax. He's been built up to be so powerful that there's no way they could realistically defeat him. And it never feels right that he's so obsessed with learning the identity of Ruby's mother. Surely somebody with godlike powers could have worked it out ages ago. The fact that he can just be physically lassoed and dragged off screaming into the time vortex just feels completely at odds with the omnipotent godlike figure that they've been building him up as. The Doctor gives a big long speech crowing about his triumph, but all I could think was, quick, shut the door! Sutek's climbing up the rope, he'll have you! And of course he waits till the last second to close it for dramatic effect. So once everyone's recovered from dying and being brought back to life, which I'm sure will never be mentioned again in any future episode, the mystery of Ruby's mother is finally solved. When her photo came up, I thought it was Sheridan Smith, who played Lucy Miller in the Big Finish audio adventures. But no, it turns out to be another Northern actress, and she's playing Louise Miller, not Lucy. So it could just be a coincidence. I guess having Ruby's mum turn out to be just an ordinary woman is better than making her a special cosmic being like so many other previous companions. But it does feel like a bit of a cheat. It doesn't explain the snow, or why Ruby's mother was so difficult to see on the archive footage. Still, the scenes where Ruby reunites with her mum are very well played and very emotional. And the scene where Ruby leaves the Doctor is also really good. Although it would have had more impact if we didn't know that she was coming back next season. After all this, the only remaining mystery is the identity of Mrs. Flood, who's clearly been saved as the arc plot for season 2. I have absolutely no idea who she could be, but I'm betting that she's a new character rather than an old one. Next season looks like it could be based around the Doctor's search for Susan, which I'm a lot more invested in. So I will be sticking around for that, if nothing else. Overall, it's not the best of endings. The stakes are ridiculously high, and the final confrontation is very rushed. But the emotional payoffs work quite well, so it's probably best just to remember them and forget about the silly bits. Next week I'll be going back to the 1980s to continue my journey through Tom Baker's stories with The Keeper of Traken. But before that I might do a final video on this season, ranking all the episodes from worst to best, and giving my general thoughts on what worked and what didn't. So press subscribe if you like the sound of that, and I'll see you next time.